Joining us to discuss, Democratic strategist and former Georgia State House Representative Dee Hawkins-Haler and RNC National Spokesperson, Director of Black Media Affairs, Paris Dennard. Dee, let's start with you. What is the next step for Biden in his Build Back Better plan?
Well, I thank you for having me. So Biden is going to have to do a better job with messaging and putting his foot down. The American people, especially those who were Democrats, elected Joe Biden to be the president and to get things done. And right now we have a Democrat who's being an obstructionist just because he's getting a little bit of attention. I think it's very disingenuous for him to pull back like this and not tell Biden first. And I'm very disappointed that the citizens of West Virginia are not speaking up and putting more pressure on Manchin right now.
Paris, let's bring you into this. There are at least 45 Republicans who oppose this plan as well. So why all the attention on Senator Manchin?
Well, thank you for having me. The attention on Senator Manchin is because he's a Democrat and he is standing up for what he knows to be right for his constituents. Senator Manchin does not have to answer to the Democrat Party. He doesn't have to answer to Joe Biden. He doesn't have to answer to Chuck Schumer. He has to answer to the men and women of West Virginia who elected him. He also has to answer to the men and women of West Virginia who gave President Trump nearly 69% of the vote, the majority of the vote. President Trump won West Virginia. And so in terms of who he represents, their values, their interests, and what they want, he has to be accountable to them. And he said in his remarks that he has to go back to the people of West Virginia and explain to them every single vote that he does, every single vote that he counts. And he could not in good conscience look at this bill as written and say that he was going to vote for it because it wasn't going to be something that was going to be beneficial to his constituents. That's what he had to do.
And do you believe that Senator Manchin actually is keeping his constituents in mind, or is he looking at some other political play?
I personally think he's looking at looking out for his own good, because why else would he just be so disingenuous? Tell the president I'm going to support it. Have the Democrats, pull back. They cut so much off of that initial bill, all the way down to $1.7 trillion, only to be stabbed in the back by Manchin. But they should have seen this coming, because this is the same person who's blocking the voting rights bill. So what do we expect right now of Senator Joe Manchin, especially with all of the limelight he's getting right now? He's like, this is the prime time for him. He's trying to make all of the decisions and be the king for the Democratic Party, but he is not. And the citizens of West Virginia need to let him know that. And if he doesn't get it together, send his butt home.
Paris, would the Republican Party welcome Senator Manchin into the fold?
If Senator Manchin wants to become a Republican, sure, he can become a Republican. But this is nothing new for Senator Manchin. This might be new for a lot of people who are watching politics right now, but this is consistent with what he has done in the past. He has been someone who has been very outspoken about what he believes, and he's been very outspoken along with people like Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona about where they stand on these spending bills. Look, they're wildly unpopular. This is not the time to be raising taxes. This is not the time to be doing things that are going to contribute to the rising inflation that we see. This is an administration that has broken a lot of promises, and Senator Manchin does not want to be associated with a bill that's going to break promises. It is true that this bill, as written, was going to raise taxes on the middle class. It is true that this bill, as written, was going to, reports say, as a double child care for those mothers, those single mothers in West Virginia, especially, who need this who don't need to have that happen when it comes to child care doubling. And so when you look at the totality of this bill, the Build Back Broke bill is at what we call it the RNC. It wasn't something that was going to be good for his constituents. And at the end of the day, these elected officials represent their constituents. They have to be held accountable by their constituents, not by political pundits, not by national parties, and not by the media. They're held accountable by their constituents. And this constituency in West Virginia gave President Trump and his agenda 69% of the vote. He's acutely aware of that, and he wasn't going to vote for something that was going to hurt them.
Paris, indeed, President Biden's polling numbers are very low in that state, but it is also one of the states that is the poorest in the country. 2/3 of the seniors there don't have their natural teeth, so they would have directly benefited from having dental care and Medicare, which is something that Joe Manchin opposed. So, Dee, I'll give you the last word on this. Is Joe Manchin really playing to what would or would not benefit his constituents, or is he trying to push a broader message of economic austerity?
He's definitely pushing a broader message. And just like Pastor said, I will say that the Republicans have very good talking points, even if they're built in fantasy. But we know that child credit bill was going to help so many working mothers and fathers get back to work. And he said the reason why he opposed it is because he didn't want it to go to drugs. I mean, what is he talking about? What does it have to do with anything? I know they have an opioid crisis in West Virginia, but he's basically saying the working people are going to take the money and put it to drugs and not towards their children, whatever. I'm over Senator Manchin. He's right.
All right,
Dee, I'm
going to have to jump in here. Dee in Paris, we're going to have to wrap our conversation. We'll be sure to have you